So as I say, we will have 2 heats coming up. And in the meantime, we'll keep you across what's happening in terms of hammer qualification. And then afterwards, pole vault when that gets underway. Well, we're talking about the French pedigree in this event. And this is Jalali Bedrani, who was 4th at the European Indoors. 8:13 season's best at the Marrakesh Diamond League. And then over to Osama Zoglami, bronze medalist from 2 years ago. Also fastest time of the year in Marrakesh, 8:19.54. In fact, what you'll see is that many of these men have all been in the same races together. I suppose there aren't too many high-quality elite steeplechase races. That's one reason for it. Picking out also Karl Babendorf of Germany, so he was 5th on home soil, of course, at the last edition of these championships in Munich. And he's one of the improvers this year, one of a few improvers this year, taking 2.7 seconds off his lifetime best this season. Fastest time of 8:16.84 in Horso in Poland. And then Mark Pearce of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Fantastic opportunity for him. Previously a finalist at the World University Games. And also been to the World Schools Championships, but in terms of major championship at senior level, one of the big 4, if you like, and this is his first. So now underway in this race. Of course, 2 years ago, the final won by Topi Raitanen for Finland, but prior to that, 5 times by Mahedin Makisi Benabad. Many of these men have run well at Marrakesh Diamond League, or that Horso race, or in Huelva at the end of April. And talking of Spain, you can see Alejandro Quijada at the front of this, 8:24.38. He's improved to this year. So 7.5 laps of the track for these men. First heat of 2, and it's the first 8 in each heat that will progress through to the final. As we're saying, Daniel Arquette, the best time in Europe this year, 8:12.28. And he will go in the second heat in a few moments' time.
You could argue that the second heat's slightly more loaded in terms of seeding and quality of athletes and credentials of the athletes competing in that heat, but it's still a very good heat indeed. But with 8 to go through, no fastest non-automatic qualifiers these days, with the change in rules as dictated, if you like, by the World Athletics, changing the qualification measures. And our co-commentator Tim Hutchings, who has a great endurance background, very much of the opinion that this is the best way to go for championship racing, rather than have different conditions and then the second or later heats, the men in those heats knowing what they need to do and obviously running a little bit faster and keeping the pace quicker.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If the athletes support it, then ultimately it's for the best.
I haven't heard of much pushback on the change of rules, I have to say.
Always when there's an initial change of rules, sometimes they can be pushed back, and there will be situations where an athlete will think, well, actually, had it been the previous system, I actually would have made it based on position. And they'll look at that, might reflect on that, hopefully not for too long, but once we get used to something and it seems to work and has to support the athletes, then that'll be for the best.
So this is Yassin Boui at the front, taking the lead, and who's got good flat speed. 6 times national indoor champion over 1,500 metres, and personal best of 3:37 for the 1,500 metres. So he's also got some good times to his name, over 10 kilometres on the road as well, and has had a couple of outings on the roads during the early part of the season. So quite a range of Boui, who's up at the front at the moment, dictating the pace, as we see Delfandra just go through. 3:04.69, so a very pedestrian first kilometre.
Yeah, incredibly so, but now starting to push on a little. Yeah, it's interesting with Bowie, though, because he's made 6.6 seconds improvement this year. First steeplechase was in 2021. Another who ran quickly, that personal best you mentioned, in Horso.
Well, that first kilometre in this first heat of the men's steeplechase was only a few tenths faster than Stella Ruto ran in the first heat yesterday to set a to run a ultimately 9:30, but at the time it was the fastest qualifier ever in a European Championships women's 3000-metre steeplechase. It's Rattinger going up to the front, the Austrian. He's a man who will certainly fancy his chances of getting into the final with a personal best of 8:26 this year, and has improved to that mark earlier this year. Zouglami, well, we've seen a lot of Zouglami and European athletics events. Osama Zinzagli has featured quite prominently in events like European Team Championships over the years. He's been a stalwart of the Italian team, and I'm sure that morale in the Italian team after that tremendous first day has been boosted sky high. It was already pretty high, as team captain Gianmarco Tamberi was explaining at the press conference on Thursday. They're really up and motivated for this, as they are the reigning European team champions from Silesia last year. So, let's pass through 1,600 metres. 4:43.93. It's coming up on our commentator information system. And of course, if you want to follow all live results, including splits, go on to the European Athletics website, www.european-athletics.com.
Yes, previously coming through with 4 laps to go. It was a 68-second lap with Tobias Rattinger of Austria. Of course, already have a medal from these championships in the men's discus, a silver, leading them round. Zouglami was keen to get up onto the shoulder, though. Similar sort of lap, 69 seconds. Didn't quite see the split time, but caught roughly as they came across. Rattinger, Zouglami. Vedrami, we saw a couple of moments ago, he was keen to really wriggle his way through the middle and find some room for himself. He's still bunched within that pack. Here is his teammate Chassenot in the hammer.
Yes, Chassenot, one of the favourites for a medal, lying second on the European 2024 list. Improved recently to 79.88. That's bang on the 77-metre line. 77 metres, the automatic qualifying distance. But as we've seen, we haven't had more than 12 go through in any final. I can't remember the last time we had a European Championships when more than 12 did get automatic qualifiers, and I think even if that's a few centimetres short, which probably it is, that would be good enough to see him through. 76.84, the 16 centimetres short of the automatic qualifier. There you saw the earlier throws from Baltacci and Zaltos.
So Zouglami from Vedrani, two of the athletes you'd expect to be at the front of this race, and the other French athlete, Nicolas Maridaru, improved to 8:16.36 this year. Improved by 2 seconds in Horso. Another who was in that race, Mark Pierce, in a good position. You can just see from above that they have whittled down to a group of 9, I think, is at the front. There's an athlete that's fallen there. Belgian, it looked like Remy Schnuss, I think it is. He looked to be in some pain as well. So I hope he's all right. On to the final lap now. Babendorf also in this group. Just has to make sure that he's in the top 8. Still too many athletes off the back of this one. More and more spread out, though. Zouglami has a look up at the big screen. Still the 2 Frenchmen behind him. Babendorf is there. Simon Sundström of Sweden. 8:17 this year in Stockholm, just behind his teammate Emil Blomberg, who goes in the second heat. Bowie re-emerges at the front now. Mark Pierce has got a little bit of work to do to try and get into the top 8. He's in 9th place at the moment. Has to kick off. He's up against Sundström here. Does just make it. All pushing and shoving, charging their way through. I think they're right on the inside, almost pushing those in front to give himself some space. 8:34, 8:33.63 officially for Jalali Bedrani coming through, and Simon Sundström appeared to one that just missed out, and it was Damian Vish who charged off that final barrier and almost went fists out to try and clear himself some room down that home straight. Scherbo of Norway looks exhausted there. Wonder whether he had a bit of an issue on that last lap. Just having a look at Babendorf making it, Bowie as well. Behind those two Frenchmen, Schneider, who we didn't see feature early on in the race, kept himself part of that lead group, and in the end, top 8 is fairly easy qualification compared, for example, to top 6.
So these are the middle stages of the race, and we're looking at Zouglami with Daru up there, Bedrani, most of the main contenders. This was the incident that Alex pointed out through the commentary. Remy Shins going down. Oh, he was probably the major casualty of this heat, and unfortunately didn't finish. So the 8:18 man from Belgium, just outside this year's European top 10, won't progress to the final. But in the end, most of the main expected contenders went through. Schneider having to work a little bit harder than he might have liked, but Bedrani, you can see there, letting everybody know he's got plenty left in the tank. Bedrani looks very, very comfortable, as does his teammate Darrow as well. A few of the men behind him, the Germans like Schneider and Bebendorf, having to work a little bit harder in that sprint. Czech Republic's Damian Vish looked all in there, but he's got 2 days to recover.
So these are the top 8, 2 Italians, 2 Frenchmen and 2 Germans among those that make it through. Mark Pierce just doing enough in the end.
As we switch back to the track for about another 9 minutes, as we look at the second heat of the men's 3000m steeplechase. Well, from the outside, it's Nahuel Carabagna, who has a decent chance of getting Andorra's very first medal at the European Athletics Championships. This is the defending champion, Topi Raitanen. He's been in good form this year, run 8:21. This is Osama Zouglami's brother, Ala Zouglami. In fact, twins, but Osama, to be fair, is probably the better known of the two. Has a best of 8:14, Ala Zouglami, so not quite as quick as his brother, but still a very, very useful runner. There's Daniel Arquet leading the way. Okay, he's got his own small contingent of supporters who've made their way to this fantastic Olympic stadium. Well, back at the last time we were here for a European Athletics Championships in 1974, we saw what was at the time, and I've looked it up on YouTube, I was very young at the time, don't remember it personally, but I've seen it subsequently and saw one of the great steeplechases of that era, won by Bronislaw Malinowski in 8:15 exactly, just 1 second, exactly 1 second outside the world record. Anders Garderud chasing him home after a titanic battle. The German, East German Lesser coming through, and then man who I've seen a couple of times around, the great Italian journalist Franco Fava. Wonderful character. He finished fourth in an Italian record of 8:19, and it was an absolutely terrific race. There's grainy footage, and if you enjoy watching heritage events like the 3000-meter steeplechase from 50 years ago, I can definitely recommend looking it up. But here we are, well into the 21st century, and it is the two Spaniards, Fernando Caro and Daniel Arce, who are leading the way at the moment in the opening first lap, first 400 meters, I should say. They have completed gone round one lap of the track. So, Hendrickson.
And it looks as though Arce and his teammate have gone straight to the finish.
Hendrickson, very useful thrower indeed. Has thrown over 80 meters. Decent start for Hendrickson, 75.21, not in his best form this year, but nevertheless still very competitive. The Olympic Games silver medalist from 2 years ago, two-time World Championship finalist. So, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, faster pace in this opening kilometre than we had in the first heat. Doesn't really matter nowadays, as we were talking about qualification. Oh, there's a faller. That looks like the Turk in there. So, Turkey's Abdullah Tugluk takes a tumble. He's back on his feet quickly. He's trying to get back in the main pack as we come up 1,000 meters, 1 kilometer, 2:50.66. So it's a good 15 seconds faster than the first heat.
Yeah, certainly is faster. Not quite sure it's that much faster.
15 seconds faster. That's a fair bit faster.
Pretty sure it's 3:04 for the opening.
Yeah, that's 2:50.
Oh, sure, 2:56 pop up.
Aha.
So, be right. So, Arce leading the way. Blue bib showing that he's the European leader. He's got Zach Seddon for company. Seddon hoping to follow his teammate Pierce through. Oh no, we've got another Belgian athlete on the ground, just as we had in the first heat. It's Tim van der Velde. And once again, hope he can receive attention. Seddon is down as well, so bit of attrition in this race. That was off the back of the water jump there. He's still made his way up pretty quickly, really. Once again, quite congested. You've got Rupert at the front, the German. 8:17.41 this year. 69-second lap that time around. So similar sort of pace at this particular phase of the race compared to the first heats. Once again, though, it's just the top 8 going through by position. Nahuel Carabanya of Andorra, who has an opportunity come the final, if he can make it, to win their first ever medal in the history of these championships, previously doing so at under 23 level, but that would be an incredible achievement. Has to qualify first. Well, Zach Seddon has done a terrific job to recover almost to the position that he was in previously before that slip. But Topi Raitanen, defending champion, is at risk of being cut off the back of this pack. That's perhaps the big story, the way this race is turning out at this point as they come through with 3 laps to go now.
Yes, Raitanen just had one outing this year, had an 8:21 in Karlsruhe fairly recently. Hasn't been racing very much at all, so maybe not 100% race fit, notwithstanding the fact that he had that good time. Daniel Arce getting up front. Rupert. Well, Rupert, 8:15 man this year. Very well indeed. He's been driving the pace at the front, and that's certainly whittled down the field. So 2,000 meters, 5:37. So still a quick pace, much quicker than the first lap. Daniel Arce up there. Made the final of the last European Championships. Missed out on the medals though. And came good though. Helped Spain with victory in the European Team Championships last year in Silesia. And it is warm out there again. It's about 30 degrees out there. Not terribly humid, but just... You can see the athletes at the front working very hard at this stage. Also up there, Miellet. So it's Rupert, Arce, Miellet, Carabagna, Seddon, Johansson, Zuglami and Bloomberg. They're the men in the automatic qualifying positions at the moment. No Fernando Caro up there. Where's Caro at the moment? Caro, of course, European Championship silver medalist in 2018. Caro's off the back from the looks of things. Well, that would be a little bit of a surprise. No, he hasn't been running as well as previous years, but to see Caro eliminated. But Rupert really working hard as they come up to the bell. It's Rupert leading the way as he's done through most of the second 2 kilometers. Arce looking comfortable on the inside now, just edging in front. Miellet. Well, Miellet has run a tactically astute race. Well, they've all navigated the barriers at the front. Still the 2 Swedes up there. Johansson leading the way. Blomberg just tracking him. Now there's a group of 5 starting to stretch away, get away from the rest. Well, Reitinen struggling, but he is in a qualifying position at the moment. He's back down in about 7th. But it is Rupert. Well, he's brought his expertise to bear as Rupert and comes through very comfortably at the front with Daniel Arce. 8:21, so good, 13 seconds faster than the first heat, but as we were saying, no fastest non-automatic qualifiers anymore. It's the first 8 men through. Daniel Arce taking the win, 8:21.46. That's a very quick time for a European Athletics Championship qualifier. Rupert, 300ths in arrears. Miellet, and he was tracking them all the time over the closing kilometre, very comfortably in 3rd place. Miellet comes through, looks very, very calm and collected. The Frenchman, Alexis Miellet, had a very good teenage career, but is now 29 years of age. Johansson. That's very close to Johansson's best at 8:22. He's 18 man at best. Reitinen looked as though he was getting detached, but has come through strongly to take 5th place. Carabagna through as well. Bloomberg making it 2 Swedes in the final.
There were some fantastic recoveries in that race. Zach Seddon, who was just flashing across the right of picture there, of course, at one point had that slip, not quite as Van der Velde ended up on the floor, but did drift back quite a few positions. And then Reitinen, as you said, was looking detached from the pack, ended up in 5th place by the end of things. The defending champion just towards the back of this group now. There's the fall for Van der Velde. You can see athletes having to push and shove and actually step on the inside of the track in order to take evasive action. That's what happened to Seddon, so he did actually end up on the ground, but he got up so quickly and got on with it. Really wasn't too flustered by that. Huge credit.
One of the men who were impeded with that first fall from Van der Velde was actually Reitinen. You saw him trying to dodge around him, but he didn't really make much difference in the great scheme of things, but it could have been more problematic for him. Very warm but delighted Daniel Arke. As we see the results, Arke, Rupert, Miellet, they were the 1, 2, 3 in that heat. 8:21.46, 8:21.49, 8:22.19, all the way down. And perhaps most pleased man of them all was the Czech runner Habata, who got through in 8th place.
Yes, just looking at the full confirmed result, Arke leading the way. I mentioned also that the Italian Bui only had 3 years steeplechase experience. Well, Miellet, who's qualified there, it's only his 4th steeple race ever. You see Bedrani, his teammate, joining along with Daru, as ever, a big French contingent.
Perhaps the one that...
And the next final coming up. Back to the hammer in a few moments, and indeed the pole vault. It's the men's 3000-meter steeplechase. Well, there was a little bit of a mess in qualification. Quite a few fallers that we saw, including Remy Schnus of Belgium and Zach Seddon of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, who tried to get up, tried to recover, but of course the energy that you use in doing that sometimes makes it really tough. His teammate Mark Pierce is in this though. We also saw their 2 Czech athletes, the Andorran Nahuel Carabanya, their first ever finalist in any discipline. Love to give a shout out to the smaller contingents. And one of the bigger contingents, of course, is the French and Jelani Bedrani, 4th at the European Indoors in 2019, 8:13 this year. But European leader is Daniel Arke of Spain, first at the European Team Championships last year. But blue bib signifying that best time in Europe in 2024. Karl Babendorf next to him there, 2.7 seconds personal best this year to 8:16.84, as you can see. Another Frenchman, Alexis Miellet, also a big improver, similar sort of time that he's run. Topi Raitanen, defending champion. That was a really astute tactical race. He's maybe not one of the fastest athletes in terms of speed, but brilliant hurdling techniques, particularly in the latter stage of the race. So that's why he has the gold bib, having won in Munich. This then is Osama Zoglami, perhaps the best of the Italians, 8:11 exactly at best. He ran 8:19 this year in Marrakesh, so a few seconds between him and some of the others, but hey, that may not matter one bit. All depends on what kind of race that we're going to see here over the next few moments. Also have a couple of Swedes in this as well, so a few nations having strength in depth. We'll see whether that plays out again in any particular way, whether there's tactics or just focus on individual races here. Well, it all depends, as I say, on what kind of race we're going to see, Phil Minshall.
Well, it's looking as though at this stage it's going to be Raitanen, the defending champion, who's leading it out, and it's a fairly decent place for a championship steeplechase. Of course, Raitanen, going back to 2022, won in 8:21.80, looking as though it's that sort of pace.
Molly Cordery then, a failure at 4:78, past any more attempts, a failure at 4:83. This for Cordery, she has to go clear here or she takes the bronze. Oh my word, no, just misjudges it, and she knows too. Goodness me, she had the height, she has another major championship medal. It'll be a sobering experience for her after the World Indoor Championship. She is one of the favourites for Paris and takes the bronze like Holly Bradshaw did back in 2018 in Berlin. It's brilliant to get on the rostrum. She's still so young. But here, next to go, is Moser. So Cordery, a frustration. She'll know too what she's done wrong, but able to smile and take it philosophically, which is great.
1.5 laps into this race. Two Italians then, now at the front. Zoglami and Bui, we can see here. So we'll get an idea of the first kilometre split when they come through next time around. But suddenly then, bit of a move at the front there, and it is Zoglami making that gap. Well, interesting tactic from him. He was the bronze medalist 2 years ago.
Moser at 4.83. She cleared 4.78 first time. She has the lead. It's not to be. But Moser, in one of the upsets of the championships, has taken gold. Goodness me, equals a national record of 4.78. And as ever in the vertical jumps, even if you win gold, you can finish on a failure. It's one of the great ironies. 4.78 first time, and the only athlete clear at 4.78. Stefanidi at first time clearance at 4.73. Taking the silver. She had a failure at 4.78. She's had two failures at 4.83. And that is Swiss gold, my word. Very, very sweet Swiss gold, as sweet as Swiss chocolate. Timed it to perfection. Absolutely brilliant. And that is the first medal for Switzerland, with only one other silver in these championships. And Stefanidi's celebrating. She's taken down the young pretender Cordery with that silver medal, and Cordery can celebrate. She and her dad Stuart have to be satisfied with another medal for the collection, a building collection.
So 2:47 for the opening kilometre, but that was just for the leader Zoglami, who was 3 seconds ahead then of the pack, with Daru of France, Bedrani, his teammate there, Daniel Arcade, the European leader. So fascinating tactic from our leader. Puts him on for around 8:21 pace, Phil.
Yes, 8.21, very similar pace to what we saw back in 2022. But at the moment, most of the main protagonists are back and just watching to see what Zoglami can do. He may have just taken it on too quickly, too early. Bui, Arke are the men we should be watching. Reitonen, of course, had a very, very competent run in the heats as well. And he's stuttering there, stuttering badly. I'm just wondering whether he's pushed too hard too soon. Maybe he would have been better off just staying with the pace, but he doesn't have much of a sprint finish, whereas the likes of Bui, as we saw, Bedrani, Arke, and some of the other men just trailing off behind them, definitely do have a fast finish.
Well, it's interesting because he's a quality athlete of great pedigree, and sometimes you see someone trying to chance it, take their opportunity in a European final, but this is an experienced man compared to, you've got the likes of Miellet of France in the pack. This is his 5th ever steeplechase, not that much experience. Yassine Bui took to the event in 2021 for the first time. We can see there Reitonen, just as he was in the heat, struggling a little with this pace now. Not had the cleanest year so far, so may have a difficult time further back. Mark Pearce is there for Great Britain and Northern Ireland, coached by Luke Gunn, who's watching on as part of the British team staff here. But Zoglami, 3 laps to go for him.
Yes, 3 laps to go, but the main pack behind them look as though they're closing. He had a 30-metre advantage going across the line just a moment ago, and now they're coming up to the 1 kilometre to go mark, coming up to the 2 kilometre point. It's on the far side of the arena, and it'll be a good test. Well, Arke grimacing, but Bedrani, though, looking very comfortable at this stage. Bui starting to slip back. Bui, for my money, he just looks extremely comfortable at the moment, and they are definitely closing on Zoglami, without a doubt. It's now down to about 15 metres. Zoglami, well, he cleared that hurdle very, very well, has to be said. Arcade now speeding up going into that hurdle, but he's grimacing. He's looking as though he's going through the pain barrier. 2 laps to go. Zoglami's just pushed again. He's just put about another 5 metres between himself and the chasing pack. Moving up, it's one of the Germans. I think it's Bebendorf.
Yeah, it was 5:31 after 2K. It was actually a faster split there. He did most of the hard work, though, in the early part of that kilometre. Now, kind of that gap has been maintained, and you just wondered whether the pack were going to work together, led by Arke and Rupert, the first of the Germans, in fact it is. Then Bedrani, who we picked out before the race, perhaps the best Frenchman, 8:13.73. Well, a number of these men have struggled for high-quality competition opportunities this year, as we see Arke gritting his teeth, maybe getting a little bit tired, grimacing quite a lot there. But this pack is running more and more in single file. Rupert looking more in control as he edges into second place. All the Frenchmen together, though, and suddenly, like a swarm of bees, they're closing up ever more on Zoglami, hitting the bell. 7:16 into this race now. More momentum off the barrier. Rupert in the gold vest of Germany, running the long way round, but it's Arke right up onto the shoulder. Doesn't quite go past just yet. Zoglami still holding on, and now trying to fight for space, as we saw with Gemma Reekie in the 1500 final, who was taken over by Kieran McGeehan in the latter stages. And suddenly Miellet, who has so little experience in this event, he's out front for France, who of course won so many consecutive titles in this event, with Makissi Benabad dominating this event for years at a European level. Oh, it's so often been France against Spain. Germany trying to fight their way through. Late arrivals to the party here, though, is Beimendorf. One more barrier to go. Miellet against Bedrani. Great sprint off the final barrier. A French one too. Miellet and Bedrani, with Beimendorf closing there. Well, he was nowhere to be seen really with 400 to go. But Alexis Miellet, the heat with his fourth steeplechase race ever. Extraordinary how he's come in and done that. 8:14.01 when we were on for 8:21 pace. Similar, as you said, what Reitenen did 2 years ago. He was well beaten, not at his best, but that was sensational from Alexis Miellet to reclaim the steeplechase title for France.
Well, Alexis Miellet came into this with very, very good 1500-metre credentials. He's converted very quickly and very well to the steeplechase, and just looked the part, didn't he? Personal best for him, taking just under a second off his best. Beimendorf coming through very strongly, a personal best for him, and the other German, Rupert, in fourth place. Arke, perhaps a pre-race favourite, as he was the European leader, run out of it in fifth place. And there, just look at him, Zoglami. Well, he ran at 8:21 pace over the first 2 kilometres, and he finished in 8:21, but it was 7 seconds in arrears of the winner. The wheels started to come off Zoglami about 300 metres to the end, and then everybody just came past him. Bedrani looking around for his colleagues and compatriots, but Alexis Miellet, as we look at the closing stages of the race, Miellet, really good hurdler. Sometimes when you're converting to the steeplechase, it takes you a little while to actually get to grips with the event, because it's such a different rhythm in terms of endurance running. The rhythm's broken by going over these hurdles. But Miellet has made it look quite easy, that conversion. At this point, with a lap to go, it looked as though it was going to be perhaps Bedrani, but perhaps the indicator that Miellet was going to be the winner was just looking at his face. Bedrani always grimacing, never quite looking comfortable, despite the fact that he was digging deep. But Miellet, that change of gear that he has from his 1500-metre running days, proving to be decisive.
But it's ridiculous, Phil, because his first steeplechase race was on the 4th of May in Dessines in France. He ran 8:24 there, and now he's run 8:14. That's extraordinary, isn't it? And Beimendorf's improved on his PB this year by 4.1 seconds as well. Bedrani between them.